Each week I review a handful of lifters who have registered to have their form critiqued. Today I'm going to break down 6 snatches that have been sent my way, so hopefully you might take something away or learn a thing or two from them. If you'd like a lift reviewed in a future video, I'll leave a link in the description to register. First snatch today, starting with Coach MJ PT. So when he catches the snatch, you can see that the barbell still wants to travel backwards and he's shifted quite far in the heels in the catch. And this backwards trajectory has already somewhat been determined by the time the bar reaches the knee in the first pull. You can see in the first pull, the bar path is actually quite forward as the bar goes to the knee, which means that the knees aren't quite getting out of the way enough and the shoulders are coming back a little early. The rule is we want the body to move around the bar, not the barbell around the body. And because he didn't quite get the knees out of the way in the first pull, you can see as the pull continues, by the time he contacts with the hips, his shoulders are behind the bar and his heels are off the ground, indicating that he's a little off balance. Fast forward that into the third pull, he somewhat pulls the bar back, continuing this backwards trajectory, which then causes that weight in the heels in the catch. What I would focus on here is that above the knee portion of the lift, targeted with some hang work where he can focus on getting the shoulders on top of the bar in this point. If the shoulders are already behind at the knee, that's where you can run into balance issues. So I'd throw in some hang power snatch, hang snatch, and once you start to get the hang of that with the patience over the bar with the shoulders, start implementing some pause work so you can start to bridge the first pull from the ground with that patience over the bar. So this snatch also has somewhat of a balance issue in the first pull, but it's a little different to the first. Ideally, we want to keep mid-foot balanced throughout the pull all the way up until contact. You can see here as the bar's passing the knee, the toes begin to rise from the floor, which indicates that most of the weight is in the heels. And what will generally happen here if someone is too far in the heels in the pull, you'll see a bit of a compensation where the hips push through and bump the bar away post-contact, which as you can see is evident here. What I'd program here to work on this is some 2-position pause snatch pulls being just below and just above the knee, where the focus will be not letting those toes raise as that transition phase from below to above the knee and ensuring you're still balanced in the midfoot. Another way to challenge this is adding in some no feet snatch work, meaning you start in somewhat of a wider stance, mimicking your catch position, so then you don't need to move the legs going into the catch, and all you need to focus on is keeping midfoot balance, driving up, only letting the heels raise in extension, but not moving the feet laterally at all, or letting the toes leave the ground. Now you can see this lifter clearly has some experience. His catch position is super solid, and for the most part his pull is fine. The only thing you see is that slight jump forward going into the catch is caused by that extension not quite being as complete as we would like it to, which seems to be caused by just some patience over the bar. All that would need to be addressed here to help stop that jump forward and add a little bit more height to the bar is just having those shoulders over the bar a touch longer in the second pull from the knee to hip. Whether that be adding in some snatch high pull plus power or full snatches to follow in a complex, where you can really focus on a more vertical finish in the high pull and trying to emulate in the lift to follow. Not a massive change is needed, just a slight bit more patience over the bar in that second pull. Now in this lift, if we pause at the contact point, it seems as though the knees have almost extended already by the time the bar reaches contact, which doesn't leave too much room to move to then extend. From there, you can see that the feet almost prematurely lift on the floor instead of pushing through the ground a little longer, which creates somewhat of a disconnect and a crash during the catch of the snatch. I'd for one have a little more patience before bringing the shoulders back in the second pull from the knee to hip, which will hopefully leave you with a little more room to extend at the top, so then you can push into the ground a little longer, get a bit more extension at the top instead of diving under and experiencing a bar crash. One way you can work on this is throwing in some no feet snatches where you can focus on that patience over the bar and really pushing those legs in for a little longer in extension. This paired with not letting the feet pick up too early should result in more bar body connection and begin to eliminate that bar crash at the bottom. You can see this lifter has quite long levers, which generally means you need to do a little more work to get the knees out of the way of the bar, and your positioning needs to shift somewhat due to it. Despite having the longer levers, her start position is quite low, where generally the longer your levers are, the higher the hips will generally start. And because she started quite low with the longer levers, There was some compensation with the arms to get the bar to loop around the knee, and then pulling back a little aggressively with the arms going into the pull, which then led to an extension which was also a little upper body driven. What I do here is just raise the hips a touch more in the start position and focus on pushing the legs from the floor, clearing a path for the bar to pass the knee, which may entail shifting your feet slightly further outways in the start if comfortable. Then from there, as you pass the knee, you should hopefully be a little more over the bar, have the knees back a touch more, and be able to extend a little harder with the legs. So you can then relax the arms a little more, and then use them once you begin to pull under the bar, post strong extension with the legs. This is how my first 10 to 15 competitions in weightlifting looked. Essentially all power and adrenaline, not so much focusing on the technique of the lift. Which, to be fair, I don't like people overthinking technique on the competition day. The main thing is just getting the lift. So when you're starting weightlifting, if you're still new and on the competition stage and you power snatch, that's fine. To me, it just seems like a bit of an apprehension to pull under. In the third pull, instead of pulling under to catch lower, you were using the arms to pull the bar higher. A little bit too much upper body. For you, what I would aim to do, considering how your mobility is, I would throw in some overhead squats, aiming to at least be able to overhead squat your best snatch for a set of 2 to 3 reps. Then from there, I would throw in some snatch balances, also with the same intent, trying to exceed your best snatch. Essentially just 2 variations to build strength and awareness in this position. Once you start to get comfortable with this, I would also throw in some snatches with the 3-second hold in the catch. Not only will this build some more time under tension in the bottom where you can build some more awareness and comfort, but there's also some added precision in the pull beforehand once you know that there's actually a hold coming in the bottom of the catch. Essentially just taking a little more time to build that awareness in the bottom position, so once the competition day arises and you're just running off adrenaline, that default go-to position once you're on autopilot mode will be the bottom of the catch once the weight gets heavy enough. As I said at the start of the video, if you want one of your videos critiqued as well, I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can register as well, plus have access to all my other resources and my team below in the description.